All right. Look who I have here, Linsey Godfrey and Paul Telfer. It's so good to see you guys.
So good to see you.
First of all, I want to ask you, Linsey, so it comes out, Xander finds out that he's the father of the baby. You have these big dada moments at the but then it's like now you're at each other's throats.
I know.
I thought it was going to be like...
Straight to it?
Well, I was like, now I have to go through this?
Right.
I felt the same way, where I was like, oh.
Weren't you like, I have to now go through a court battle with him?
That was a big question of mine. Because, like, I, Linsey, as somebody who co-parents, have a very lovely co-parenting relationship. And we do everything very nice and very gentle.
Right, there was no court case.
No, we never ever had to do anything like that. We're very gentle and very nice with each other. So I actually was like dreading doing this thing, which would be my Linsey's worst case scenario. I can't think of anything that would be more
Yeah, I just have to say I didn't like it because I didn't think that's where it was going to go, I guess.
Yeah, stick with it.
What is your feeling on it?
Oh, no, I kind of dug it just because...
Because it could be bad.
Yeah, it allowed me... I think it's important for Sarah to see how vicious Xander is to everybody else. She had never really been... She knows he's a baddie. She knows he does bad things. But she can always justify it that he does those bad things because he loves her so much, or he wants to protect a child, or he wants to do this or that, or like he's always got an excuse. But she's never been victimized by Xander. And so for him to turn so like savage, even though it's just lawyers and all that kind of thing, but that stuff can get so nasty. And for him to be like as scorched earth as he was, like, no, I want full custody, she doesn't deserve to be around the child, is on the one hand so hypocritical of him because of what we did to Eric, but also like very... That's Xander. That is his reactionary.
He must feel so wronged by her. Yeah. I mean, she never told him the truth.
Right. And, you know, he's not used to being on the receiving end of deceit. And that's what Gwen did to him. Like, you know, Gwen had the whole thing going on in the background, like hiding things, what she had done to Sarah. And, you know, like the build up to him, you know, and his breakdown, her being like the worst person he knew, and, you know, all of that, only for him to like later capitulate when the chips were down, he needed some help, and here comes Gwen to help. The difference between that and the relationship that he has with Sarah, which has always been for Xander quite aspirational, right? Like he wants to be the kind of person that somebody like Sarah could love, that somebody like Sarah could even marry and have a child and, you know, build a whole legacy with. And he's just never capable of getting out of his own way. And so now, having been through a few more romances, having been through quite a mature and like a fun, light romance with Chloe, and then to being robbed of that, he feels, on top of like the whole lie about the child and the deceit and how long it's been going on, there's also like, he thought he was full, this is it, I'm going to go and be with Chloe, and she said yeah, and like, why not, let's go, and he's lost everything. So, you know, it's revenge for the deceit, but it's also revenge for, how dare you do this to my life, which is so hypocritical because of all the times he's done very equivalent things to Sarah. So he needs to go through it. They need to go through it.
Does she love Xander?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's why...
Is that her end game in her mind?
Yeah, I think Sarah hates how much she loves him.
So twisted.
She does. She loves him in just such a deep... It's ingrained. It's a part of her. And it's why... I think it's why it allows Maggie to love him so much. Sarah and Maggie see the same thing. No matter what Sarah says, she sees the same thing in him that Maggie does. And I think they loved it. The earning of their love was so genuine in the way it happened. Friends, enemies to friends, to lovers, to, you know, soulmates. So yeah, I mean, Sarah, that's why she's so mad at him, because, you know, he did all these stupid things and now they can't be together, and she's like, well, now I'm furious at you because you took away my favorite thing. And I think that's a lot of it.
One of the other things that everybody's talked about, the fans, is that their hope was Xander was going to turn out to be Victor's other son. This is the big thing. I still think there could be a twist, but how do you feel about that it is Alex?
Well, Paul, personally, I remember when I got that script, I was like, oh, I see. Because I'd always, in the back of my, like, deep down, I try not to project into the future on the show. Like, I don't think it's very helpful for us. You know, like, I prefer to just get given the scripts and react to them and try and do the best job with them now. Early on, I used to try and guess what was happening, but I've kind of given up on it. But that was one of the things that I always felt I hoped would happen, just to kind of like legitimize and make sense of some of the Victor Xander stuff that happened over the years. Because I've never really touched on his real paternity. We don't know who my mother is. So it always felt there had to be something more going on between, you know, Victor and Xander. And obviously the tragic loss of John Aniston a year ago, like kind of just called the bluff on a lot of that. Like, you know, like some decisions like have to be made. But I will say that part of the fun of being on a show like this and becoming both a performer and kind of a fan of the show and how it all works is that as soon as I had that little like, I was always hoping Xander would be Victor's son. I was like, he still might be. Like, because, you know, everything changes. And very often you get what you wish for, not the way you wanted it on this show. Yeah. So it's, you know, careful what you wish for. You know, you might not get it the way you hoped you would. So yeah, I'm very open.
Jealous of Rob?
I mean, personally, yes, but Xander's not jealous of it. Who wouldn't be jealous of Rob? The sexy boy.
Now, I want to see about how did you feel about Victor's memorial service and the episodes? Was it moving for you to be a part of it, and how were you?
Zach Tinker's performance.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Zach Tinker got up and did that, and that was it for me.
And if you can imagine, like, the rehearsal was just as good. So we were all like, just all of us crying. And it was
Funny.
so
I thought he was wonderful.
No, like Zach's always lucky when he comes on the show. But it was one of those things where that was a big day, and a lot of people had monologues. You know, it's a really strong troupe of people that know what they're doing, know their characters, and know their lines. But still, on a day like that, like there's a bit more like, okay, I want to get this right for John. I want to get it right for the show. I want to get it right to not waste anybody's time. First time. And so Zach was first, and he did it in such a matter-of-fact, grounded way that it just set this like lovely like foundation for all of us for the day to build off of. So yeah, that was. I mean, that whole thing.
He had set such a high bar, and I just remember that was the one that stuck out to me. Everybody was wonderful, but.
Everybody was beautiful. Everybody was so wonderful, and it was fun to see people that we hadn't seen forever. I knew Rachel Melvin outside of the show. I hadn't seen her in years. So to be able to be like, "Hi, it's so good to see you. Do you want to act together?" Like, it was just really great. But also to honor such a legacy, you know, and to be there. And, you know, I was genuinely holding Suzanne's hand. And
I was worried about Suzanne.
It was hard. And, you know, what a beautiful friendship these two people had. John always liked to do really dry jokes that he knew I would get from across the room. So he would just say something, and you would just hear, like, I'd be over here, like,
right, Linsey?
And you would just hear me go,
Yeah, like a second away, and then
like, you just, so da-da-da-da.
And for you, it was hard.
it was very difficult for me, just because, you know, obviously it's such a core part of why Xander. It's hard to make an argument for Xander to be on the show sometimes.
It is, especially when he does.
Yeah, especially when he does it, especially when Victor's not there, like, right? So, just personally, you just feel this huge Victor-sized shape in the show, but then this John-sized hole in the cast that's now gone, like that gravity. And, you know, the thing about being a generational show and having multiple generations of actors and fans and producers and just everything, it being such a family, is that when things like that happen, it really does hit you in a way beyond the normal, like, loss of a colleague.
I think it's different when you're on a show that's on every single day.
Well, and I think you're also, you know, when reporting on it, watching it, writing about it, watching the interaction, it's such, you know, it's like, oh, I hope this is good.
Right,
you
yeah.
know, because I would hate to be, I didn't want to be in the position of people not liking it, and then I'm like, isn't this great? Right. You know, I didn't want to be in that, but I was right in it. Once the speeches started at the memorial, I thought JP was good too.
Oh, JP was
Everybody
great.
Was really sweet.
It was so much fun. I never got to work with JP before, and like him coming in as Philip, like just with a completely different take. It was so much fun, and as somebody that, like, I also love slipping in a little bit of silly and comedy, to be able to be in scenes with him. And it threw me off. Like, I couldn't match it, and I wasn't supposed to match it, but it was just me constantly being like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Like, I want to play with you so bad. Like, yeah.
Just for the odds of it all, what was crazy about that day was we spent the whole morning shooting the memorial, and then, you know, all the actors were like whew, what a day. And like, we did it on like, no, we're about to have a baby. And so we shot the baby at like the delivering of the baby in the morning.
Literally.
Say like,
Wait, you did the memorial first?
yeah, they all left and they're like, whew.
And you're like, we have to still do
Like, no, we still got
The
another
best part was you couldn't see it. They cut it around it. The best part of the baby thing was they've got me like up like this, Kyle down there, and then they had Paul get on the chair behind me, but it didn't show. I don't think it showed your legs. His legs were up over the armrest, so his legs were like up by his shoulders, like holding me. Like it was.
You just have to trust the camera guys, and they're not going to make me look like that much of an idiot, are they? Okay. But it was really sweet. I mean, that whole thing was so fun. Like running and turning John's picture around, and Nadia being like, why am I here?
Why am I even here? Why am I here?
Like squeezing her ring and being like, take it
Why
out.
am I here? They are wrapping me. I could talk to you guys for hours. Linsey Godfrey, Paul Telfer, thank you. Watch them weekdays on Days of Our Lives, streaming on Peacock. And I hope to God Xander and Sarah somehow find their way to each other.